What is up, everyone? Welcome in to a super duper double top secret episode of Alarm Fantasy Football. This is the meeting of the tight end whisperers, the original tight end whisperer, Howard Bender. He brought me into the fold, and we're doing it. The most important position, we're doing the tiers for tight ends for 2025. If you've been following along, we did quarterback, running back, wide receiver, boring positions. You can check out those videos. Those are all up. This is it. This is the league-winning position. This is the position where 8 years in a row, a tight ends come from outside the top 15 to finish top 5 and win your leagues. Evan Engrams and Jonnu Smiths and Mark Andrews. Today is when we go through and tell you who's who and what's what. Before we get to that, got to bring them on in. Howard Bender, are you ready for this top secret mission?
I'm definitely ready. I don't necessarily know how top secret it's going to be or how boring the other ones were, but I mean, listen, this is
the other ones were not boring.
Our wheelhouse, our breadbasket, whatever you want to call it. This is where we thrive the most because, listen, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, that's great. Tight end can be the difference maker that you need to win. Like, that's the thing. Like, yes, you can easily draft one of the top tight ends who are out there and hope that he continues to do what he's supposed to do. But that's what you said earlier is really what it's all about. Where's the value at this position, and who's the guy who is going to, who's drafted at tight end 15 that's going to produce like tight end 5?
Exactly. There's so much, you know what the word is? Leverage. There's so much leverage you can create at this position. Quarterback too from time to time, but the top quarterbacks seem to be a lot safer and they hit more often than some of the other tight ends. So today's the day we're going to get into it. Not much news going on, so I think we can actually jump right into this one. And yes, Josh, I saw you retweeted the top secret tweet. I will say this: any likes and retweets and subscriptions and thumbs ups you can give us, that's something you can give us for free, and it really helps out the channel, helps us out a lot. So we're gonna go through, give you our rankings for the tight ends. We did discuss the tiers in advance this time to minimize the bickering and name calling that may have occurred during previous episodes. So let's get them up here and let's get to rocking. So here we go. We're gonna put this here. We're gonna do it like this, so you can maximize what you guys can see up there. Look at that.
Looky.
Look at that. By popular demand, everybody. Yes, feeling a lot better. You guys are right. Jay Keezy also retweeted the top secret tweet. That's okay. But yes, we're all set. We're ready to go. Before we get into it, Howard, and any changes we need to make to the tiers? Just one last check.
No, I don't think there's any changes to the tiers. I just want to say that this little format that you've got going on right now, what I love the most is that you can still see that QR code up there in the top corner. So if you want to get that copy of the Fantasy Alarm NFL Draft Guide, which is live right now with so much content already out and so much more content still to go, get yourself over there, zap that QR code, or just go to fantasyalarm.com/NFL Draft Guide. Secure your copy today.
Get it now. That already has not only Howard and I's linear rankings, it's got a copy of my yin and yang tight end rankings. And we're going to get into that, kind of how that works today, because we set up the tiers in that way. Super duper stars. The top tier here, these are guys that could potentially produce for you like wide receivers. These are guys that like you would be very happy to have them in your flex, and you're certainly starting them all year if you pick them at tight end. The standalone tier, the next tier, what we mean by that is if you're paying up for this player, then you're expecting them to produce for you the vast majority of the season, and you're only drafting one tight end in most instances. Yes, you're going to need somebody for bye weeks. Yes, you might need someone for injuries. But for the most part, if you draft a guy like this, this is your guy. You're leaving him in your lineup. After that, we get into the kind of back end tight end ones and tight end 2 group where maybe you draft 2. Maybe you draft one safe guy to start for you early on, and then you draft a second tight end that's the most high risk, high reward guys. And we're going to put those guys in groups. At the end, we're looking at the dart throw players we like. If you're doing best ball, if you're doing deeper drafts, if you're doing Scott Fishbowl, you're going to need to know how you rank the guys in the tight end 20 to 25 to 30 range. I got 35 tight ends in here because that's what we do. And then the bottom group is guys that are buried. Essentially, way down the target pecking order if they have a bunch of wide receivers, or maybe they're not even the starting tight end on their team, but they're interesting enough that we're keeping an eyeball on them. So that's what we're doing today. Only other rule is each one of us has a veto that we can use to move a player around at any point, and you cannot triple stamp a double stamp. Let's get into it. By popular demand, alphabetical order is the way to go. That's what everyone wants, Howard.
It's not what everybody wants, but that's the way we're going to go.
That's right. That is actually how we decided. But
refrain from the name calling if that's what you want.
There'll be no name calling. Chat, no name calling. All right. I'm looking at you, Skinny. I'm looking at you, Dynasty Dave. No name calling in the chat. Okay. First one is one that we like. Mark Andrews. Question is kind of where we put him here. I'm thinking here. I'm thinking standalone tier these days. Howard, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm fine with standalone tier. I know that, a lot of people are going to be shying away from Mark Andrews, and we're going to get the Isaiah Likely truthers crawling out of the woodwork. But let's just remember, people, after a car accident and an offseason injury for Mark Andrews and the slow start for the season, the dude still racked up, 11 touchdowns and how many yards? I mean, he was Lamar Jackson's top red zone target, for the majority of the season. So slow start notwithstanding, Mark Andrews definitely still standalone value for me, 100%. More than happy to grab him. What I also like even more is that if you're doing a tournament and you make that move for Lamar Jackson early, you can grab Mark Andrews at ADP and not miss a beat.
So easy to do. So easy to do. And also, yeah, it's like the stigma, right? Like first he had the injury. And the thing about the tightrope surgery, it's a brand new surgery that's only been around for a few years now. We're seeing guys, it gets you back on the field quick, but guys have a slow recovery time. Look at Tony Pollard, great example. He said he didn't feel well until week 11 of the year following the surgery, and then he looked good, kind of like Mark Andrews last year, didn't look good. Darnell Mooney, a lot of these guys are looking like that. I think Mark Andrews could come back and make things happen in a big way. So feeling good about Mark Andrews. Next player here, alphabetical order, rookie Elijah Arroyo, drafted by the Seattle Seahawks in the second round. Very kind of a mystery box player because he got hurt a bunch in college, but when he was out there, very athletic, recorded a speed over 20 miles an hour on field, and he's kind of pushing Noah Fant for that job. But he is kind of buried for now. He kind of fits that description.
Is he buried or is he a dart throw we might like?
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
me. I have no faith in Noah Fant. I think Noah Fant he's a tremendous blocker. I don't think he's that great of a pass catcher.
I think we can put Arroyo at the top of the buried for now. The thing is, Noah Fant is the one thing going for Fant is he has the athleticism. Ran a 4.5 40. If he gets that job, he's interesting. But Arroyo is kind of like, you planted the flowers and you can kind of see it right there below the surface. Noah Fant could be released. If they release or trade him, they save $9.5 million, Howard. I mean, like, if you were sitting here today, you wouldn't give $10 million to Noah Fant, right? Like, so he's right there on the chopping block. I think Arroyo has to be at the very top of the buried for now tier. And then as we progress to the summer, the moment something happens to Noah Fant, I mean, Arroyo could go as high as the upside tight end 2 tier. I mean, he's either a dart throw or an upside play. So very interesting player there, but we'll leave him there for the time being because he is, I mean, technically he's buried on the depth chart. That's the problem. Guys like Trey McBride, Ben Snott. Like Trey McBride's a great player. He was stuck behind Ertz. So it's,
Right, but I mean, is he buried on the depth chart or is he just sitting behind Noah Fant right now?
He's sitting. I mean, they do the same thing. That's the problem.
Okay. All right.
Well, we'll see how we progress.
If you want to say that AJ Barner is going to be, kind of making his way in there and maybe he complicates things. Okay. All right. Let's leave him buried for now. We'll revisit it for sure. And we'll go from there.
Okay. Let me just give my quick stump speech on the Barner situation. AJ Barner's best comparable player on Player Profiler is Durham Smythe, which is the exact kind of inline blocking tight end. Like he's like the Durham Smythe, Luke Farrell, Foster Moreau inline guy, which means that it's Arroyo versus Fant for that other job. If Fant gets released, very exciting. If Fant doesn't, then we're in big trouble for Arroyo. So that's kind of where I live with that. But we can't talk about Arroyo for 15 minutes on a show like this. We got too many good players here. This guy here, you like this guy, Howard? Mr. Brock Bowers?
I like him. I just don't like him as much as everybody else does.
I think that's what it boils down to with these guys. He has to go in that top group. If
Sure.
you can get a good value on him, then great. But I'm not overpaying. I'm not drafting him in the second round. Can't do it right now.
And that's really like, did we not learn our lesson?
No one ever does.
From Sam Laporta in the second round last year. Now, all right, listen. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, run first scheme in Detroit. So things we're stacking against, not as much as working against Brock Bowers right now, but you do have, you've got Jacoby Myers who's there. You've got, Bowers who's going to be a high value target as well. You've got a different offensive coordinator who likes to play a very fast paced, kind of a performance, but he does also like to run the ball first. And they drafted Ashton Genty, which tells me that, Chip Kelly is getting his ideal running back. So I agree with you. Bowers, super duper star. There are some question marks. I wouldn't take him in the second round, but I can't knock him. I can't knock him down a tier at all.
No, I'll still rank him 1. I'm just not taking a guy in that range. That's the problem. Here's my philosophy on it. Unless you're playing tight end premium, which is a totally different format, we've never had a tight end finish as the number 1 flex player in fantasy football. And I know positional scarcity factors in, but at the end of the day, you need to score the points. There are guys out here capable of scoring 400 fantasy points flat out in PPR formats. I make a list of those guys, and it's all running backs and wide receivers. And I draft those players that I think can beat that guy until those guys are exhausted. And for me, that list is a minimum 15, 16 players long, 17, 18, sometimes 20 players long that I need to shoot for that ultimate upside. And then I start looking at tight end and quarterback. It just, for me, it never falls where Bowers is. And that's the bottom line, man. And I'm a tight end. We're tight end guys, but we got to be realistic about it. And a tight end's never been drafted in the first round and also finished as a top 12 flex player in that year either. So it's a dangerous game. So there you go. Yeah, Bowers going a little too early for me. If he goes in the third round, I'll absolutely take him.
There you go. There you
Tyler
go.
Conklin. This is a player that I know you're higher on than me, Howard. So give us the rundown on Conk, Dad.
You know what? I think he's still a dart throw that I like. Because you've got Will Dissly there, and Tyler Conklin is there, and who's the other guy? There's a third.
Rondé Gadsden, the rookie.
Yeah, Rondé Gadsden, the rookie. So that's what you're looking at right now. But we know the offensive scheme that Greg Roman likes to utilize, and we know that Greg Roman likes to have his quarterback throwing to the tight end. The interesting thing about what we're going to see with the Chargers this year is with Amarian Hampton and Najee Harris, how much are they going to really push through for the run as opposed to really throwing the ball? Like Justin Herbert, I like him and everything, and he's got Ladd McConkey, who is a fantastic guy. But what we've seen over the years with Greg Roman and Harbaugh, for that matter, is that the preference is to run. They will air it out if they don't have a running game, if they're dealing with injuries like they dealt with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, for all that time in Baltimore. That I do think that when you've got Hampton and Harris, maybe they do pull back a little bit on the passing that they showed last season. And so for that matter, I think that Tyler Conklin is a better pass catcher than Will Dissly. Will Dissly, I think, profiles better as a blocking tight end. Gadsden is definitely a wild card in that system. So I'd put Conklin as just as a dart throw that I like, because Ladd McConkey, Trey Harris, I don't care about the other wide receivers, but then who's going to be that tight end? So I'll take the shot that it is Conklin.
Yep. And there is a bonus in that Greg Roman really historically does not like throwing to the running backs, which is typically good for the tight end. Like, go look at Frank Gore's stats the 4 years that Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator. doesn't really like throwing to the backs, which is good for the tight end spot. And just, if you draft Conklin, keep an eye on Gadsden just to see what they do there. But Gadsden has a lot of overlapping skill. Like he's supposed to be a big slot guy, but Ladd McConkey plays a slot. So it could just be Conklin there. So definitely a name. And, we've seen this guy get 80 targets in a lot of these seasons. So it's entirely possible. With Evan Engram, are you cool with him as your standalone tight end right now? Or do you consider him more of like an upside tight end too?
He's a standalone for me.
Me too.
Knowing what we know about the scheme that Joe Lombardi and Sean Payton run, knowing exactly what they've explained to Evan Engram when they brought him in, we can talk about the Joker tweets all we want, but the fact remains is that he is going to be a high value target in this passing game.
Yep, he's going to play that big slot role. Peyton loves getting mismatches by having guys playing in a position where other teams are used to covering that player with somebody totally different. So when you go up against Josh Downs and Jaden Reed and Wan'Dale Robinson week after week after week, and you put your nickel corner on that player, and then all of a sudden the Broncos come out and they have a 6'3", 235-pound guy in that spot, it creates mismatches. That's the whole plan there. Same with RJ Harvey. They're going to move him around and try and create mismatches that way. So I think they got the guy they needed they got really lucky getting the guy they needed. Just like the Dolphins last year, Jonnu Smith fell right in their lap. He got released as well. It's easy to forget. These guys both got released, but Jonnu Smith was a top 5 tight end because he found the right scheme. This guy found the right scheme. Zach Ertz here, boring tight end too, right?
Boring.
Yeah, I mean, poster child. Every once in a while we get a nice poster child for it, but he's been kind of a yin and yang tight end staple because, a couple years in a row now, he's been a guy you put in your lineup and he gets targets. With the Cardinals, he was on pace for like 100 targets before he got hurt, and then Trey McBride took over. Last year, he was a top 10 tight end in targets for sure. So, boring. And if you don't like Deebo Samuel, I know some people aren't in on the Samuel train. Ball's got to go somewhere, right?
Ball's got to go somewhere. We can definitely go with that one.
Yeah. So Noah Fant, okay.
Boo.
I like put him in dart throws we like. There's an argument to say that because he's behind JSN and Cooper Kupp, he's just buried target wise. I like him. I like the dart throw. I tell you this. Here's the short and sweet on Noah Fant. We watched these schemes that use the fullback and the blocking tight end. The 49ers, the Dolphins, last year the Saints with Clint Kubiak, right? It consolidates the targets among the top few guys. So when you look at how we got Jonnu Smith last year, you've got guys like Julian Hill blocking tight end and Alec Ingold fullback playing like 500, 600 combined snaps, getting no targets. So the ball only goes to the top 2 wide receivers, the running back and the tight end. And when Jonnu Smith's case, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle got a little banged up, and that led him to get his highly consolidated targets became almost 100 targets. The same with George Kittle. What happens with him all the time? He's a top target on the team. Guys get banged up. He gets peppered. Whoever the starting tight end is for the Seahawks is in a position for that. I want it to be Elijah Royal, but right now it's Noah Fant. End of Noah Fant rant right there.
I won't use my veto on this one here, although I reserve the right to revisit this conversation further into today's show.
You can apply your veto at any moment and we have not made a rule that they're clear and safe once they get in there. Maybe we should make that rule. That'll be the Noah Fant rule next time. But yes, you're allowed to move Noah Fant if you want. And I wouldn't be super upset if you did. But right now I feel like it's got to be Fant over Arroyo until we are hearing that this guy's not going to make the team.
Yeah, no, okay, that's fine.
Jake Ferguson.
You consider? Is he boring to you? I mean, he's going to be third on that team in targets, and where he shows up in red zone work is going to be very interesting to see. We know that Dak Prescott likes to lean on him. We know that, Brian Schottenheimer's in a pass heavy scheme. You've got CeeDee Lamb, you've got George Pickens. I'm not going to sit here and, sift through the Jalen Tolberts or the Kevontae Turpins.
No.
Ferguson, do you have him in boring because he doesn't pick up a ton of yards after the catch kind of a thing, that he's low kind of like a low A dot, good red zone numbers. Is that what you consider boring?
He's very slow. That's the problem you run into, is that guys that run a 4.8 or slower very rarely break off big plays. Not even just in the same season, in their entire careers. It's very rare to have a guy that runs a 4.8 or slower have more than one 40+ yard play ever. The only guy I could find was Kyle Rudolph. Like, there's just, these guys aren't, you know what I mean? But he is kind of a Kyle Rudolph, and Kyle Rudolph wasn't that bad. That's why, like, when right before the George Pickens trade, he was here because he could be the second target on the team. After the George Pickens trade, I put him right here. That's kind of where I live with Ferg, is that he doesn't have the speed that Kittle and Jonnu Smith have to, like, really make it happen on fewer targets. This guy needs to be peppered with targets.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with that. I'm fine. You can call him boring. I mean, listen, I'm perfectly fine calling him boring, especially because, I mentioned his name, and our good friend, Jim Bowden always chimes in with the, don't forget, what's that Luke Schoonmaker.
Schoonmaker,
He's
yeah.
like, don't forget Schoonmaker. He's going to be a guy. He's going to be a dude this year.
He loves the Schoon Man, dude. I watched the tape on Schoon Man at Michigan, and I don't remember him having a single catch versus man's man. So, like, not even just contested catches. It was literally just like screws. How about we change the category from boring to safe? Because I think that feels better. You want
to backpedal on your opinions?
Safe/boring. That is what the whole yin category is in the yin and yang tight end philosophy, though. It truly is. Here's an interesting one. Pat Freiermuth, man. I know you don't like Rodgers, but he could be the second target on the team. And he was a top 10 tight end last year because he was the second target on the team. But he could also be dart throw because he does go late enough.
I don't think he's a dart throw. I would consider him safe/boring to be. Like, I mean, if I'm going to categorize him somewhere, again, we'll have to see what he does with his work with Aaron Rodgers in camp. We're hearing a lot of, coach speak on Calvin Austin III, whether or not he's going to prove to be the number 2 target behind DK Metcalf. There's just not a lot. To me, there's not a lot of excitement around Freiermuth, right? Yeah. He's a good guy. He's a safe pick. He's not somebody he's not going to win you your leagues at all.
But maybe, though. I mean, I watched Rodgers throw 11 touchdowns to Robert Tonyan, who was basically like a trash can out there.
It was one season. One season. And then he played together in the following year, and Tonyan didn't do squat.
Tonyan got hurt, but I also didn't like Tonyan. I didn't like Tonyan because he was so touchdown dependent. So we'll put him here. I think that Freiermuth could be a top 2 target on the team. That's why I'm going to let's see how things progress here. It might be able to sneak into the back of that upside tight end 2 category.
Freiermuth is too busy right now picking up George Pickens' trash that he left behind in Pittsburgh. I don't know if you heard that story.
What? No, what happened?
Oh, George Pickens backed out of a youth camp that was supposed to start up here on June 28th. And he backed out of it at the last minute. Last week, somebody sent in, one of his reps sent in the message that was the case. And Freiermuth ended up being the guy who said, well, let's push camp off a little bit to fit my schedule, but I'll serve as the Pittsburgh rep.
That sounds like upside tight end 2 move right there.
It just sounds like safe, boring.
Okay, Mike Gesicki, he is the third target. He picks up targets when someone's hurt, but he's so clearly behind the other guys. I could even say buried, but
I don't think he's buried. I mean, if you're saying buried,
target wise, so not just
targets,
on the targets and depth chart, but I don't think he's that buried. I think he probably is in here somewhere. Would you rather have Ertz or Gesicki?
I'd probably rather have Ertz. Just consider, because if we incorporate the analysis of Josh Wagner, we could say that Fat Debo isn't going to do anything in Washington. Therefore, Ertz has a little bit more value. Gesicki's a guy who who shines when one of the wide receivers is hurt. He's hardly looked at all, like when they're on the field.
Yeah, he's a double handcuff plus, and I think a lot of those guys are going to end up right in here. Speaking of which, Dallas Goedert, also one of those guys that last year he had 150 yards when the wide receivers were hurt. In most of the other games, he was just fine. I think I'd rather have him over Gesicki, but is it
Probably.
Goddard over Ertz too? Probably, yeah.
Probably.
But I think I'd rather have Ferg, just because the Eagles were so low volume last year. Didn't like it. I mean, they could just be really good again.
I mean, I've been diving into the offensive scheme and what they're wanting to do. I'm more bullish on pass catching work for Saquon Barkley, and I'm just more bullish on passing yards for Jalen Hurts. I think that they're going to pull back on how much they, have continued to run the football for a multitude of reasons. Number one, you want to spare Saquon Barkley the added wear and tear. Number two, I just don't know what to expect from this defense. And I think they're going to have to throw the ball more than they did last year. Last year was super easy, right? Defense was on lockdown. Just let Saquon run the ball in the second half and give him, a billion touches, and we're good. But from everything that I'm hearing right now, they want to get the passing, stepped up in Philly.
Yep. Number 3, as you have mentioned multiple times, Kellen Moore is gone. And you're right. There are times where he doesn't like throwing to the running back. Number 4, Saquon Barkley was chasing a record. And, they took every opportunity they could to try and help him get that record. So there's a lot of reasons they could pass more. This guy, a guy we like, I think he's got to go here just because the uncertainty with it's him versus a guy coming off a torn ACL in Stephon Diggs and a rookie in Kyle Williams, and then a bunch of other just unproven guys.
Yep.
Right?
Has the opportunity to be the second target in that offense for sure.
Yep. Simple as that. And he's very good versus man-to-man, which really does translate to the red zone. If this team is a little bit better, like they won 4 games last year, Vegas has them like 7.5, 8.5, most places I check. I think that they're going to be at least a little bit better, which hopefully will mean more touchdowns available. So Henry, good spot for him. Tyler Higbee, man. The problem, the 2 wide receivers could combine for like 300 plus targets, which is why for me, Higbee is like junk.
I'm fine with that.
And Terrence Ferguson might just be better than him. You know what I mean? Just like
that Tyler Higbee, he's a hell of a blocker.
Right. And exactly. And if anything happened, like let's say Devontae Adams gets hurt, are we running to the waiver wire to add Tyler Higbee? No, I don't think so.
I think Terrence Ferguson actually shines a little brighter if one of those wide receivers does get hurt.
Right. I'm adding Tutu Atwell. That's what I'll add.
There you go.
There you go. He got like 10 targets a couple games last year. All right. This one's a tough one here for me. Tommy Hawkinson, because he's a good player, but the pecking order is kind of weird over there. But if you pay the price,
I think he's standalone. I really do. I think that, we're not sure if Jordan Addison's going to even get suspended or not, right? So that's kind of an intriguing thing. But who else is taking targets away? You got Jefferson, you got Addison. Is Jalen Naylor going to be, stealing that many targets, or does Hawk really kind of fit in well with that scheme?
Right. And the other guys they got over there, man, Rondell Moore, Tim Jones. They did draft a guy, Ty Felton, but this is exactly what you want to see in Dynasty. If you have a tight end where the team says we have this guy, so we don't need to spend up on more wide receivers. So if he is the third target, he's still fairly safe. That just means that it hurts his chance of being a top 5 tight end, but he's still very squarely locked into that back end tight end 1 range at the worst, I think. So that's a good spot for him. And if you're paying up that high for a tight end, you probably shouldn't draft 2 with meaningful draft capital. And that's kind of what we're talking about with that standalone tier. Juwan Johnson, interesting one here. Again, you have to wonder what Mickey Loomis is thinking. Because they gave him a lot of money, man, this offseason. Like, way too much. But is he going to be a top, so with Kellen Moore, what are your thoughts on that scheme? Because I know you've been digging deep into the scheme.
Well, I mean, I'm fine with putting him as a dart throw. I also kind of believe that he might be an upside tight end too, depending on the fact of, I mean, where are the targets going? Shaheed's coming back from an injury. Chris Olave is one hospital ball away from retirement.
Brandon Cooks is half a
Right,
hospital
Cooks
ball
is
away from
half a
retirement.
hospital ball, and then you've got Taysom Hill in there though, and does Taysom Hill kind of screw up the tight end work
He
and
kind
put
of
him,
screws it
so
up.
he might be better off as a dart throw than the upside tight end, but it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with him because I do think he can be a dynamic pass catcher, but I'm not ready to commit to him. And if you look at his ADP, I mean, the dude's free, so he's like
Free,
the
yeah.
perfect example of a dart throw.
Yep. And I think with Shaheed is we really liked Shaheed last year because of the scheme, because of what Kubiak does. Yet to be seen if Shaheed can really like be a Devonta Smith style guy. Like that's maybe asking a lot. So yeah, I like right there. Him or Conklin.
I think you can leave. I think you can leave him ahead of Conklin just in the fact that there are other bodies that are competing for tight end work in Los Angeles. There's only Johnson and Taysom Hill when you're looking at New Orleans.
Yep. Fully agree. And he's a converted wide receiver. So like he's never gonna be just like a blocking tight end. Like he's either gonna make it as a pass catcher or he's not gonna make it. Theo Johnson, interesting case here because on one hand, Malik Neighbors is a target machine, and Wan'Dale Robinson got 140 targets last year, but he didn't even crack 700 yards. So does he deserve those kind of targets again? And Darius Slayton is kind of a who cares type guy. But Theo Johnson also blocked on over 10% of his pass plays last year, and he might not have the kind of role we like.
Yeah, Brian Daboll has never been like a big let's get the let's get the tight end involved, right? He never. I mean, it was middle of the road at best in Buffalo. So I kind of think that what we're looking at here for Theo is probably buried. Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, I do like what I'm hearing about Darius Slayton and Russell Wilson and their work together. I love what Russell Wilson's saying about Malik Neighbors at this point. So it's going to be very tough to see what happens with Theo Johnson, especially when you also, if you're going to go and you're going to play a lot of 11 personnel, which they probably will, then are you going to use like Bellinger or Manhurts as the blockers over Theo Johnson? Possibly.
Yeah. I think that's a good spot for him to live. And Darius Slayton is an interesting best ball play because of the moon balls from Russell Wilson, right? Just want to throw that out there that like Russ, say what you will, he always ranks among the top guys in passes downfield. And he likes looking downfield. Tucker Kraft here, I think just given the uncertainty, he's in the upside range, I think, right? Had a couple 60-yard plays last year, which was nice. Who knows what the rookies are going to be? Christian Watson's going to miss virtually all the season, a huge chunk of the season per his father. Kraft or Henry, though?
I'd rather have Henry than Kraft. I just, because when you've got Jaden Reed and you drafted Matthew Golden, Romeo Dubs is still there, right? So, and
very, very run heavy. LaFleur
and then you've got, there's also Luke Musgrave is in there as well. And that's not, it's not that I'm like thinking that, Musgrave is going to usurp Kraft. It's just a matter of Matt LaFleur likes his two tight end sets, and you will see Luke Musgrave there. So I think he's behind Henry. I think Henry's got the better chance to be a higher valued target than Kraft will be in Green Bay.
Yeah. For years we saw it with Jonnu Smith, where Jonnu Smith was the starting tight end. He was the better tight end, but Anthony Ferkser would just play these like third down only pass downs. And if Anthony Ferkser takes 30 targets from Jonnu Smith, crushes the upside. If Luke Musgrave finds a way to get 25, 30 targets, last year, Tucker Kraft only averaged 4.1 targets per game. He had 70 targets in 17 games. That typically is not cutting it for us. Not even close. We need 90. That's the number we want. So yeah, good spot for him. But at the same time, I kind of like the guy. They love that guy, man. I've not heard one bad thing about Tucker Kraft, and he earned that job last year with it. He had a torn pec and missed the entire summer, and still earned the starting job. So there's something to be said for that. So he's got some upside there, but it is definitely scary. Travis Kelce is a standalone tier tight end. Does he go with the front of this group?
Does he stay at the front of that group? Yeah, I would put him at the front of that group.
Yeah, that's the thing with Kelce. Say what you will about him, but we're willing to say right now, hey, this guy might not be a super duper mega star anymore, but if you draft him, you're planning to start him all year. It's going to take a lot for you to move him out of that spot. He caught 97 passes last year, all while missing a game. Like that's where that's where he lives. That's where he lives. You don't have to pick him, but if you do pick him, you're doing it because you plan to start him all year. And I'm willing to do that. Where he goes, he's going on. If best ball ADP holds, I know it doesn't always hold, but he's going outside the top 100 picks.
Oh, dude, listen, you can't find anybody who's got something nice to say about drafting Travis Kelce this year, except for somebody who's like, well, I just got him at a great value, right? I mean, that's
great value.
I'm happy with that. Yeah. I'm very happy with that.
That's what's scary about fantasy football is that like some dude in your league could just draft Mahomes and Kelce in the 8th and 9th rounds and just steamroll your league. Like it's entirely possible. It's scary. It's a scary possibility. So you got to keep that in mind. Will he last 17 weeks? Well, he's healthy now. He isn't really an injury prone guy. And we really don't like to play the old Dr. Fortune Teller game unless if a guy's actually hurt right now, I'll fade them. If not, then I'm not going to try and play that guessing game because so many times we get it wrong. And at the end of the day, you want to just draft the better player. If it's a coin flip and you think there's no difference, maybe try and guess who's going to get hurt. But otherwise, just draft the better player. Because I've seen too many times people fade like Christian McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook or Joe Mixon because they thought they were going to get hurt. And then they just drafted a worse player. And then not only did those guys not get hurt, but the worst player got hurt. And everything went terrible for you. And I think it's a bad idea. So end of rant.
I think Mile High Luke's got the comment right there that sums up Travis Kelce. Nothing like doubting a Hall of Fame tight end who's planning to go out with a bang. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this guy also, he's pretty keen to the records and stuff. He can pass, like no one's going to pass Tony Gonzalez in a lot of these stats, but he can pass Jason Witten, Antonio Gates. Like he's right behind them in fantasy points and receptions and targets and yards. Like one good season, he can basically make it so that him and Gonzalez are the top two tight ends in every stat. And I think he's probably, he probably knows that, you know what I mean? So very interesting there. Another guy I like here, Howard, are you ready to get hurt again? He's got to go in here somewhere.
I mean, you can put him in there. I am, again,
I'm willing to put him after Kraft.
Oh, definitely after Kraft.
Definitely. I don't know if it's even definitely. I think it's maybe. I think it's probably.
Look at the depth chart. Look at the roster for Buffalo right now. Look at what they've got. The wide receivers are Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, Laviska Shenault. I mean, there's really Coleman's the only guy who can stretch the field. Everybody else is just this like interchangeable cog. And now you've got Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid there. So you can say, you can wish for the upside because you think that he's got talent, but with everything that Joe Brady is showing you, with the way that Josh Allen is spreading the ball around, not having an alpha receiver, I don't know how you can sit there and say that Dalton Kincaid is even an upside tight end too, because he's not going to be utilized in that fashion. Like that's the progressions that Joe Brady has Josh Allen going through doesn't always feature a tight end.
So here is the argument in favor is that Brandon Beane, the GM, came out. I mean, so even before that, multiple people around the team, including Dawson Knox, came out and said that Dalton Kincaid was not healthy. And he was playing the entire year hurt. And that's why he took a step back instead of taking a step forward. Is that they had to limit his snaps. They had to limit what he was doing, right? Brandon Beane also challenged him this offseason to put on muscle so he could play more snaps, which is verbatim what he said. And then a press conference, 2 weeks ago, Brandon Bean came out and said he responded to everything we told him. He put on a bunch of muscle. He's looking a lot sturdier. He's looking like a guy that's going to play more. So for me, I just look at it and I say, if this was a team, if we were looking at a situation where he was in Mike Gesicki's spot behind Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, then I would say forget about the guy. But going up against Khalil Shakir and Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore and the rest of this team looks like a $1 orphaned FFPC
The scheme
team.
does not dictate targets flooding to one person.
But the thing is, all he needs is 90. He doesn't need 130. If you can get 90 to 100 targets, then as a tight end, then you could be a top 5 tight end. That's the numbers. That's the numbers, baby. Khalil Shear got 100 last year. He could get 100.
I'm not gonna. I don't need to veto it. I mean, I've listened. I would be more than happy to be proven wrong on this. I am very much somebody who believes that it is the ultimate rarity for an offensive coordinator or a head coach to change his scheme. He's going to fit people into. Is that me? Or is that you?
No, I did that.
Like you just that's the thing. What's that?
He was hurt, so he's playing limited snaps. He has a good target share per route run. He has generally a good target share overall.
I mean, listen, if you're going to throw out last year because of injury, you have to throw out last year completely.
I think that's fine.
I just, and so then if you're throwing out last year completely, then you have to look at the year before and say, what was his target share with Ken Dorsey as the offensive coordinator versus what was his target share when Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator there, because that season got split in half.
Well, I'm sort of putting it this way. Like, just think about where we're putting him, right? We're putting him after Kraft, right?
Yeah.
Kraft got 70 targets in 17 games. Kincaid got 75 targets in only 13 games. Like, if Kincaid is being moved, I'm moving Kraft too, because I think that these guys, you got to decide what type of player you're going after here. One that that was breaking off chunk plays and touchdowns and Kraft versus a guy that is capable of target volume if he's healthy. He's out there. I mean, like, he was on pace. Chat 75. What's 75 divided by 13? I'll do it right now. And I know extrapolating is a dangerous game. On pace for 98 targets. That's why I can't give up on this player.
I'm not saying to give up on this player yet. I just don't. I think your expectations are a little out of whack, just based on what I've seen from Joe Brady. And this isn't just Joe Brady from last year or Joe Brady from the year before. This is Joe Brady from college. This is Joe Brady from Carolina when he was running the show over there.
Thaddeus Moss was good in college at LSU. Who? Thaddeus Moss. Okay, right. Next player. We're getting behind schedule here, everybody. Let's see how many players we can put to the left of Kincaid. For anyone just joining us late, what we're doing, we're putting these guys into tiers, top to bottom, and also from left to right within the tier. Going to put George Kittle up there because he's awesome, and we'll save some time by moving on to the next player.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll put Sam Laporta as I'll put Laporta in there with Andrews and Kelsey.
You have Laporta ahead of Hawkinson?
Yeah, I have him ahead of Hawkinson.
Me too. I have him ahead of Engram too. I do. If it's full PPR, it's more of a question, but the Lions are so good. And if I was going to bet on any two players to score double-digit touchdowns, it would be Andrews and Laporta, just because of what we've seen from them. Like, they're the most recent tight ends to score double-digit touchdowns. Like, it's kind of simple as that. So, I know they have other weapons there, and they like to run, but Laporta is still a good player. Isaiah Likely, to me, has to go in buried for now, but I'm willing to put him at the very top, because if he does get a bigger role, we think he's good. He's not particularly fast, but he has that like basketball player athleticism to him, that he's good in short areas.
He fits the scheme and he gets the extra snaps because they like his blocking. Right. And when you know that you're running the ball with Derrick Henry, Likely's going to be on the field, not Andrews.
Yeah. And when you're going for, yeah, it's just the problem is that we're still not a full-time guy. But if anything were to happen to Andrews, anything were to happen to Bateman, anything were to happen to Zay Flowers, I think they just go full on 2 tight end sets, right? And just use these guys because they're the best pass catchers. And then he has a lot of pass. He has a lot of outs, Good player. Good guy to have in Dynasty. Colston Loveland.
I'll put him in the upside tight end 2s.
Right, because we just don't know. This guy could just be so good that you just can't help but keep throwing him the ball. That's the first round tight ends. I think both first round tight ends are going to have to go there. Right?
Yeah. McBride, throw him up there. Yep,
Right
that's
here?
fine.
Yeah, because he got 150 targets last year.
I mean, with the scheme change, I almost want to put McBride ahead of Bowers, but I won't do that. I won't do that because I know that everybody in fantasy football Twitter will freak out if I do that. They're already unnerved by the fact that I won't rank Josh Allen number 1. So
they already, yeah. I mean, but you're right on that, in my opinion. They were already. I don't have them on. They were already monitoring this top secret meeting to see if we slip up. So we got to be real. We got to be real careful. They're already making Kincaid notes. They're like, oh yeah, okay. This guy here, Howard. I'm gonna just do this. Tell me if I'm wrong in doing this.
I don't think you're wrong at all. I actually, we like him a lot. We've seen him work with Joe Flacco before. Flacco likes airing the ball out, and I think based on Shedeur Sanders' driving skills, Dylan Gabriel's inability to kind of surpass, I think what we're looking at Flacco and or Pickett kind of starting the show this year. And I think they'll use Njoku very heavily in that realm. So I'm fine with him as a standalone.
In the game you have to play is ask yourself, is the wide receiver 2 an insurmountable player? Devontae Adams is an insurmountable player. T. Higgins is an insurmountable player. Cedric Tillman is not that hard to get more targets than. Flat. I mean, I could see Njoku coming out and having crazy targets if Flacco's a starter because he was averaging like 15 a game or something crazy like that back then. It's like it's obviously not going to be 10 a game, but it could be 7 or 8 or 9. And if all you need to get 100 targets is 6 a game. So could be great. Could be good. I like this player, but I don't think I can put him in upside tight end 2s. Chigakonkwo. He's not a safe.
Yeah, no, he's dart throw, rookie QB. You've got a couple of wide receivers in there. I'm fine with leaving him as a dart throw because his ADP is like next to the bottom. Like that's like a last round pick for most people.
Yeah, I do like taking him in best ball. He has a 90th percentile athleticism. He quietly finished last year with a couple games with like 7, 10 targets. Again, that was last year, a lot moving parts, but like we're talking Tyler Lockett, Elik Ayamanar. Who else is even over there? Treylon Burks. They got another rookie there. DK Chimera. It's just like they really don't have a lot of wide receivers. It's Ridley and then not much. That's why he's a guy I like. This is a safe, boring tight end 2 in K. Dotton. He might even be buried now. I might even throw this guy in buried because of how many wide receivers they have.
Right, and hearing them talk about Grizzard's already talking up Egbuka.
He's like 10 injuries away from being the guy that we saw have some good games, Because, we'll leave him there. I mean, what do you think? Safe but boring or buried?
I mean, I think you can put him as safe and as a boring tight end. I think you can put him there.
He gets a big snap share, so I think we'll put him there. Would you rather have him or Gesicki?
Probably Gesicki.
Yeah,
fewer wide receivers to push through.
Here he is, everybody. Kyle Pitts. This is what they're watching for. They want to see what we're thinking. They want to see what we're doing.
I'm going to put him as upside tight end 2.
After Loveland.
I think that second year with Zach Robinson now calling plays. Because remember, last year Zach Robinson had never called play a day in his life, like not at any level. And so all of a sudden they brought him in there to, replace Arthur Smith and, kind of run this offensive scheme that I think that, I'm not going to say that it's overwhelming him, but I think that it was something to pay attention to. Again, they didn't do anything to bring in any competition for targets, right? You still have Drake London and Darnell Mooney.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like the Ray McLeod is the next best guy there, and he played a huge number of snaps and was just not garnering targets in any way. So I'm not worried about that. Zach Robinson basically just brought over that scheme, and because the Rams had never utilized a like pass catching tight end when he was there, he just didn't know how to deal with it, and he was just using Charlie Warner instead. I'm hoping this year he sits back and says, okay, let me figure out a way to maximize this guy. But he also might just continue to platoon them. And then Pitts is just sad, but he's still he's still giving you like 600 yards, which is kind of crazy because he's just very athletic. But he also might just stink. All right, next player here, Jatavian Sanders. I think he's in here for me. I have a Okonkwo ahead. Would you rather have a Okonkwo or guys like, would you rather have Sanders or guys like Juwan Johnson?
I would rather have Juwan Johnson or Okonkwo. I don't like Jatavian Sanders as much as you do. For the, again, for the fact that you brought in Tet McMillan, you re-signed Adam Thielen, you still got Jalen Coker sitting over there on one side. Xavier Legette is there as well. I mean, it's very, very obvious that, that and we've seen it. We even saw it with Dave Canales, right? I mean, Cade Otton didn't really like turn out unless there was an injury to, Chris Godwin or Mike Evans. And so when you kind of, when you factor that in with all of those wide receivers, I think that's really where Canales wants to go with the passing. So, I'm just not as bullish on Sanders being, a guy who you really want to rely on at all. I mean, he's waiver wire fodder. I don't even think he has an ADP, Coop.
He does in deep best ball, as Ann points out, just because you can grab him as a guy that it is a little uncertain, but I have been moving him down a little bit for a couple reasons. One, Tommy Tremble had back surgery, and they initially said he would start the season on the PUP list. Now they're saying that Tremble might be ready to start the season. And that was our whole foot in the door, was that Tommy, because the games that Tommy Tremble missed last year, Sanders is getting like 7-8 targets, catching everything. If Tremble's ready to go to start the year, less chance that Sanders even runs away with that whole tight end job. So, Howard, I'm kind of with you now that I got to move him down. I still like him, though, as a dart throw, but, you not a priority player. Not a priority player at all. Dalton Schultz was so buried, and now he might be underrated a little bit. Like, he just won't go away. He's like
he doesn't do
like,
much for me. I'd probably, you could probably put him as like a, I don't even know if he's buried. I mean, is he buried right now? Yeah, I guess if you bring in Higgins and Jalen Noel
and Christian Kirk,
yeah, I guess you could probably say that he's buried. I don't think he's safe or boring. That's good.
You and me both felt the need. We both felt the need to rank him, though. But I think we both had him like 30. I think we both had him like 36. But when I averaged out our top 40, it moved him. There were a couple guys that you and I each didn't have ranked, so I had to remove them. But it's like, this is not a player we like. This is not a player we like at all. And that's just where he goes. Ben Sinnott is buried, and
I'd put Ben Sinnott behind Theo Johnson, maybe.
Yeah, probably behind Arroyo, because Zach Ertz has a better chance of starting than Noah Fant does.
True.
But if he were to get the job, I do like him. But I mean, you have to have the job. Here's an interesting player, Jonnu Smith. Last year, injuries, wrist issues for Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle's constant, like there's something always going on with Waddle. But if those guys are healthy, I don't know if he's really back to where he was, but I think he still has to be an upside tight end too, right?
I kind of feel like Jonnu does have that standalone kind of value, right? He's like a poor man's George Kittle in Mike McDaniel's offense. Like, Waddle and Waddle and Tyreek are going to garner the most attention, but third on that target share is going to be Jonnu Smith.
Right. And they really never use the wide receiver three. The wide receiver three for that team is basically Devon Achane, who ran the most running back routes from a wide receiver spot that I've seen since David Johnson in 2016. 168 is the second most since 2016 David Johnson. And that's good for the tight end that they say, hey, we don't need a third wide receiver. They use the fullback, they use the blocking tight end. So, and he does run a 4.5 40, and Jonnu Smith actually quietly has the third most 40 plus yard plays in his career after only Kittle and Kelsey. A couple of them were handoffs even. So he's an interesting guy there. Brenton Strange, the Travis Hunter draft pick really hurt this player. I see.
Did you see the news by from the other day? Oh, I texted it to you, right?
Yeah.
That they're praising Strange on his blocking abilities.
On his blocking, yeah. And that's the thing, is that they want a two-way tight end that can play in line and block. They want Cade Otton or Tyler Higbee. But there's always a world where Travis Hunter face plants or starts slow. So I think we could put him at the back end.
Yeah, I can put him in the back end of that group. I'm fine with that. I think that he's in a good spot there where he'll see the snaps. I just don't necessarily know how many targets he's going to see, and will they get De'Ami Brown a little bit more involved if Travis Hunter fails?
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go out of order. I know it's against the rules, but I'm gonna go out of order and put Tyler Warren right here next to Loveland, because these guys are kind of two of the same. And then we're going to end here on a very interesting player. I'll say this. He belongs in one of only two categories. He belongs in, this is Mason Taylor for the Jets we're talking about. I think he belongs in either dart throws we like or upside tight end twos. And you, as the resident Jets fan, I'm going to let you make that call. Does he go at the top of dart throws we like or at the back of upside tight end twos?
I think he goes at the middle of the upside tight end twos.
Whoa! Like,
yeah,
here? You can't take him ahead of Warren.
I mean, all right. You probably put him behind Loveland. If you want to say that these rookie tight ends, Warren and Loveland, are going to see the targets that they're being promised right now. Daniel Jones seems to be the leader, of the quarterback fight in Indianapolis. That helps Warren's value overall, I think. Loveland, yeah, again, Ben Johnson's calling him the next Sam Laporta. I think that's fine. We talk about this all the time in fantasy football. It's about opportunity. And if you look at the other wide receivers, you look at the other pass catchers that we're looking at over for the Jets organization, I expect them to trade Alan Lazard to Pittsburgh at some point. And then who else do you have there? Malachi Corley, Arian Smith. These are not like
Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, Josh Reynolds. These are not big names to worry about. I think, and that's why I'll put Taylor. And again, this is not, you don't reach for him. You let everybody take every other tight end on top of him, but you watch Taylor, and I think that he can emerge as the number 2 target in this offensive scheme. I think that Justin Fields could do what Kyler Murray has done for years. If I don't see my first progression, I'm going to scramble around a little bit. Oh, there's my tight end. Boom.
Everything you said is exactly right. It's like, I guess there's a little concern that there could be a tight end rotation, but we're talking about Jeremy Ruckert. As much as I love Stone Smart, probably not going to take meaningful snaps. And I guess the only other concern is Justin Fields not throwing for high volume, but with those few targets, he has to go in there. I think just because of how late he goes in drafts, I think I would take Pitts first, because you can take Pitts and then circle back and take Taylor many rounds later.
Absolutely. You take Pitts in the 12th or the 13th round, take Taylor in like rounds 15 or 16.
Yeah. So I think right there is a perfect spot for a guy that, he checks a lot of boxes. Very athletic player. And the thing is, LSU had him block on a ton of pass plays, but they were using him wrong. And we've seen teams like Rashee Rice was used in college as a outside guy, only lined up on one side of the field. The Chiefs brought him in and said, we don't care how SMU used this player. We're going to use him totally different. So I think he could be used totally different. So there you have it, folks. I really feel good about how this shook out here. Don't think any vetoes need to be retroactively applied unless you really want to be mean to Noah Fant. Now, it's fine if you want to do that. Folks, if you want both of our rankings to kind of see where we disagree and agree, go right ahead and grab the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide available now. It not only has our linear rankings for both of us, but it also has my yin and yang tight end rankings that kind of encapsulates. It has all these guys sorted out like this and also color coded based on whether I like them or at ADP. Green guys were taken ahead of ADP, yellow at ADP, red. We're just not taking them all. Hit that QR code right above my head to get your copy now. That'll be updated all summer. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe. If you like this episode, check out the quarterback, wide receiver, and running back episodes that are all up and ready to go. And make sure you're subscribed and with the notifications on so you never miss any of these top secret meetings. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.